Well, it's been quite a road to get back here. I mean, I guess let's first just talk about the emotions of this time. We had the USADA crap that happened. The belt being stripped. What has this time been like for you?
It's been a whirlwind. It's there's been a lot of people asking, like, why aren't you back in? You're running or something, and I just can't say that I have a USADA suspension just yet. So I just keep it quiet and listen to all this, like, just crazy assumptions, all these crazy assumptions. And, luckily I'm a person who's pretty strong mentally. So it was all right, but everybody else around me was like, poor thing, you're going through this, you're going through that. When in the back of my mind, I knew I was going to have this opportunity again. Eventually, I just had to be patient. But, it was tough, but I don't think as tough as most people thought it was.
Right. So are there any, even when it came with the UFC taking the belt and, outside the USADA stuff, are there any lingering bad feelings towards UFC and just how that was all handled at the time? And maybe at the time, maybe you felt a little bit different than where you do now. But,
right.
Are there any lingering bad feelings in there?
Lingering, no. I'm over it. I had some time to just not have any fight in sight, so it was like that was not even in the question of fighting anytime soon. So I just had to sit with my thoughts and go over and contemplate, think of what I needed to do, think of what I wanted to do, if I still wanted to fight, if I wanted to do something else. And, I had the opportunity to go and do something else, pursue another dream, but fighting's kind of where my passion lies, and it's not all I know, but it's something that I hold dear. My dad was a fighter, and I won the belt, and so who says I can't do it again? So.
Well, now I gotta ask, what's the other dream? What was the other thing that maybe took you away?
Well, school.
If you could talk about it.
Right, yeah, school for sure. I was thinking of going back to school. To become a dietetic, so being a dietitian, there's just a lot that is involved with food in my culture, especially, and everybody's like diabetic or pre-diabetic. Being Navajo, we have our traditional foods, which are not that traditional per se, because, we didn't have flour or fry bread back in the day with our ancestors, but now we're doing it all the time, and I just got to educate my people to keep us around longer. We're kind of fairly a new tribe in comparison to like Hopis and Zunis and other natives around the area. Navajos are pretty new, so to keep us around longer, we need to figure out our longevity, our health, and we need to get that under control. So I thought I could do that and help out my community with that. But also in the fighting business, obviously weight cutting's an issue. I've been there, done that, and having just a smarter brain about the whole weight cutting and metabolic rates and how bodies respond differently was going to be, influential in what I wanted to do after that, which was probably work with fighters again. I've always been a coach. When I'm not fighting, I'm coaching. So that's something that I'd like to do. But also Albuquerque's getting pretty big in the acting business.
So
that's
acting's
something.
on the horizon. Have you done any acting before?
No, but in high school I did. That was kind of my first love. In high school I did a bunch of play performances. I went to ASU on a play performance scholarship.
Show me your jazz hands.
Ooh. I'll have to work on that.
So the whole schooling thing, or doing the dietitian, is it backburnered for right now? I mean, obviously fighting's the number one, but that's maybe still the goal for after fighting?
Absolutely. It's kind of hard for me to multitask during fight camp. I know other fighters go to school at the same time. But, if I want to do something right, I got to give it my 110%. I got to jump in 110% and not have any excuses to be like, oh, I couldn't be as dedicated as I wanted to be because of this. So definitely after fighting, I want to go back and get an education. Fort Lewis is where I was going to school at, and they have an awesome program. They have an awesome scene. Their scenery is beautiful. Their campus is great.
Well, I got to be the jerk and ask that one question. We talked about dieting and we talked about weight. How is the weight cut for this camp, and how is that all coming?
It's great. I've been working with Clint since I got off the show. We've had to work around a couple of things.
Clint from the performance.
From the PI, yeah. We've had to work around a couple of things last camp, my broken foot and everything. So this time around, luckily, I don't have any injuries like my arthritis, for lack of a better term, and like my feet and my joints are pretty well maintained. So that's something else that I think has to do with diet. And then, I woke up at 144 feeling great.
Have you switched up anything mainly with diet? I mean, have you switched like a big thing? I mean, did you go from a meat eater to a plant eater now, or were there any crazy major changes that you did?
No crazy major changes. Just stuck to a lot of complex carbs instead of starches, a lot of fiber. But that's kind of the tricky thing, for us Indigenous people, we stop working out and I've done some research and we stop working out and they say like you start to eat processed foods and stuff when our bodies were so just like 100 years ago, we're so used to just running down gazelles and stuff or, running down antelope. We just have to stay on it as Indigenous people. It's easy for us to get to where it's an unhealthy state.
Is that part of the training regime?
Yeah, I'm chasing
animals.
Chasing down antelope. Did you see my Instagram picture?
No.
My cousin made an Instagram picture with me standing in front of some sheep. So I heard some sheep.
That's awesome. All right, so you originally were supposed to be fighting Sarah McMahon.
Yeah.
That falls out, and now you're given Juliana Pena. What was your initial thoughts on that, and what changed in your mind, maybe in terms of strategy or preparation that you had to do for this?
I was kind of dipping my toes into wrestling right before I even heard about Sarah McMahon. And then they're like, you're going to fight Sarah McMahon. And I was like, oh, great. I've been working on this. But then I'm like, well, maybe I should work a lot of defense. So I was already working my offense. And then as soon as I heard that I was going to fight Sarah, I was working my defense. And now that I hear that I'm fighting Juliana, now I can work both. I don't have to think about not being so offensive. Now I can think about being offensive and I can be defensive to her trips. She's not as freestyle as Sarah or as Greco as Sarah. She does a lot of trips for sure, but now I can really set up my shots that I want or my body clinches, and I know how to defend pretty well.
So is this a better matchup for you?
I think so, yeah. I totally think so. Not that Sarah wasn't, both of us. I think when people look at me, they don't expect me to be as strong as I feel. So I think there's a lot of fighters who can attest to that, and so when I go into a fight and with a girl looking like Sarah or even Juliana, I'm not afraid, I'm not timid. So it just comes down to technique.
Well, we'll quickly break down Juliana. What are you expecting for her to bring to this fight?
I think she's going to be a pretty similar fight like Roxy. Just a lot of volume to get in to body locks or clinches. As soon as she gets into a body lock, then she's going to look for trips. And then, going to want to take it to the ground sooner rather than later, is what I'm assuming, and it's just going to be a bunch of grappling, a bunch of ground game.
Now she's been away, taking care of a young child. Are you anticipating that there's going to be a little ring rust, or are you expecting the Juliana that's as dangerous as ever?
Oh yeah, no, I don't slide anything by her. She's a well fought veteran. I've seen what she's capable of. I know I know her potential. I know how much more she could be better. I know than what she was. So I'm not expecting an easy fight at all. I know she's a mom, so maybe she feels like she has more to fight for also.
And you mentioned, you want to start working back towards that title shot with a nice win here. Ideally, how far out do you see yourself from getting a title shot with a win here?
Yeah, see, that's the hardest part, because in theory, you can dictate, you can project when the weight's going to come off, how soon the weight's going to come off according to diet. But since everybody's so different, sometimes it doesn't work that way, right? So I want to be in 2 weeks, I'll be losing 2 pounds each week, blah, blah, blah. But then when it comes down to it, it's it's not, my body's not responding, or something's going to come in the way. So, I'll be realistic and say I'm going to work towards it for sure. But I don't think it's going to be by the end of this year.
How many more wins do you think you would have to take before realistically that a title shot would open up for you?
I don't know. It depends, because since I'm fighting in bantamweight, I don't know how that would relate going back down to 25.
That's true.
So I think I just have to have some pretty good shows, win or lose, just show what I'm capable of, and yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you said that. I actually forgot this was at bantamweight, but I mean, like, so are you feeling stronger at this weight? I mean, I mean, what's the biggest change that you've noticed in yourself being able to be a little bit higher than normal?
I just feel more comfortable. You know, this was all of my amateur fights. I was at 135. Let's see, 1, 2, 3 of my pro fights were at 135. So this is kind of where my body wants to be, you know. Just figuring out the little details for 125 is what makes my body respond differently or react differently or hold on to what it wants to hold on to. But at 35, it's pretty easy.
But 125 is the division you want to stay in.
Eventually I'd like to get there. You know, I don't want to get my hopes up because, like I said, it's some part of it is out of my control.
Yeah.
I could have somebody sit there like I did it on the show, you know, with cameras around, probably wanting someone to like binge eat and be like, she missed weight because of this. But it was just as hard on the show. But after the show, it was harder and harder. So, you know, I'm still working with the PI. I'm still working with a bunch of people who can help me stay on track and help me figure out what the best diet is for my body.
So going to Saturday, what are the keys to the victory? What needs to happen to make sure you get your arm raised?
Just not being timid, you know, being patient, but also being accurate and anticipating her coming in for my timing of punches, right? I don't want to be too much of a defensive fighter, which I am. So that's what I'm trying to get away from, is just finding that pressure, that forward pressure, especially wrestling now. That's been helping me find a different pattern and pace. So, yeah, I don't stay relaxed, but also reactive, and remember that I can be offensive.